Hello guys, in this video I'll be showing us how to cut a simple bustier top. Okay, so this is my shoulder line, then I have my front waist length. I'm using 19.5 inches. Okay, now my shoulder to chest line is 8 inches. Shoulder to my bust point I'm using 10.5. Shoulder to my under bust I'm doing 13.5, and shoulder to my half length is 19.5. So I'll just draw all the lines. Now, all these measurements I mentioned, now they're not fixed. You have to use your own measurements, right? And yeah, use your own measurements. So I'm just drawing out all the lines now. Now, for the back, you don't need bust point for back. You don't need under bust for back. You only need shoulder, chest, and waist length for back. Now, if you notice, the back is shorter than the front. Okay, so we'll go back to that later. Now I'll mark half of my across back 7 inches on the shoulder and on the chest line. Your shoulder measurements, yeah. Now on the chest line, I'm still going to put quarter of my bust circumference measurements. No seam allowance. Okay. Now I'm going to join the shoulder line together with the chest line, where I marked half of the shoulder measurements. Okay, so now it's an off shoulder, but we need the shoulder, okay, to be able to get the armhole, blah blah blah. Now on the waist line, I'm still going to put quarter of my bust circumference measurements. Okay, so once I do that, I'm not going to connect the shoulder to the chest line to the waistline. I beg your pardon. Yeah, so I didn't put seam allowance. Okay, now I will mark half of my bust span. Bust span is your nipple to nipple measurement. You put half of that measurement. So mine is 8. So I'm marking 4 on the waistline and on the bust point line. So I'm going to have a straight line. Now, the reason why we need the shoulder is so that we can position the dart properly. It's an off shoulder, but we need the shoulder to position the dart properly. Now I'll just mark 3 inches for my neck width. We will not use it, but it's the guideline. Then 1 inch for the shoulder slants down. Now I'll create my shoulder slant like that. Okay, so once we establish that, I'm going to draw my armhole. Now for the front armhole, I will find the midpoint between the shoulder slant and the chest line. I'll find the midpoint, then I'll come in by 3/4 of an inch. It's a fitted garment, so I'll do 3/4 of an inch. Then I'll use my French cord to link the shoulder, the midpoint, and the chest line like this. As simple as that. Now I will find my mid shoulder so that I can position my dart properly. Okay, so yeah, before we do that, we want to create the off shoulder slant. Now the neckline, I beg your pardon. So now for the off shoulder, I can come down as much as 5 inches, 6 inches. If you're doing 7, you're already doing off. So before we do that, let's quickly find the mid shoulder. This is my mid shoulder. Now I'll come up by 1 inch for my bust points. Okay, then go down by 1 inch. I'll just take note of those points, and then I'll link it to the mid shoulder. I'm still coming back to the off shoulder we're talking about. Okay, so I need to find my mid shoulder first. Okay, so I'm just linking it back to the bust point like that. So once I do this, we can now come back to the off shoulder. For the off shoulder, so if you want to do off shoulder, 4 is just moderate, but off shoulders are maybe like 5 or 6. I'm doing 6 inches. Okay, then I'll use my French cord to create my neckline like so. So once I create my neckline, this is my off shoulder neckline. If you want to, you can make it deeper. It depends on your preference. So this is where the sleeve is going to be fixed on the off shoulder. So it is not a tube, it's an off shoulder bustier, right? Now we're going to do some contouring here and there. So the minimum you can do is 1/2 inch on both sides of the dart line. So I'm marking 1/2 inch. So if you're up to size 10, 12, you can do up to 0.75 on both sides. So I'm just blending it back to the 1 inch above the bust point. Can you see that? Okay, so that I don't have sharp edges around the bust point, around the busts. Did I say bust point? Around the bust. Now on the under bust, I'm marking 1/4 of an inch on both sides of the line. Then coming to the waist, there is no particular measurement for the dart intake. What you do is you subtract 1/4 of your waist measurement from 1/4 of your bust circumference measurement. So mine is 7.5, and my 1/4 of my bust is 9.5. So 9.5 minus 7.5 will give me 2. So I'll just mark 1 inch on both sides of the line. So altogether my dart intake is 2 inches. So I'll now connect everything together. Now it is not in all cases that the difference between quarter of your bust and waist will be 2. For some people it will be 2.5, some people it will be 1, some people 1.5. Whatever you get, just share the dart intake on both sides of the line, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just blending up the darts like that. Okay, I'll also blend my under bust like so, and then the next thing I'll do is to introduce my bust darts. So let me just blend the last part of my under bust like that. Okay, so I'm just shading the part I'll be cut out. Next thing is to introduce my bust dart. Now for the bust darts, remember that the front is 19.5 front waist length, and my back waist length is 17.5. That's a difference of 2 inches. So now my bust dart is going to be 2 inches wide, so that when we close the bust dart on the front pattern, the side seam of the front and back will be equal. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'll just mark 2 inches and then I'll just shade. So the width of my bust dart is 2 inches, if that makes sense. Yours can be 1 inches, depend on the difference between your front and back waist lengths. Okay, so quickly drop the back now. On the chest line, half of my across back, hinting on the shoulder line. Then I'll mark quarter of my bust circumference on the chest line, and I'm also marking half of my bust span on the waistline and on the chest line. So I just draw a straight line down to connect the shoulder and chest line like that. Then I'm drawing the line to create my darts on the back. I don't know if that makes sense. Just the regular dart you have on your normal bodies. Okay, so now I want to reshape the center back line. So now when you put your zipper on, it will fit. I'll come in by 1 inch from the waistline. Okay, and then I'll draw a new center back. So now my back is slanted and not straight. Okay, then yeah, I'll mark quarter of my bust circumference on the chest line. Then from here, I'm going to mark quarter of my waist, and I also factor in the 1 inch for the dart intake. So altogether that's 8.5, because quarter of my waist is 7.5. So I'll just link it together like this. Okay, and now I'll quickly create the neckline for the back. Same thing, shoulder slant, blah blah blah. Create the armhole. Same thing I did in the front. Okay, the only thing is for the back, when you're creating the armhole, when you find the midpoint first, instead of going in by 3/4 of an inch, you're going by half an inch because it's back. That's the difference. So I'll create my armhole. Now don't forget, when I was creating the shoulder for the front, I came down by 6 inches. Let's quickly check, because it has to tally. So here, this is 6 inches. So same thing for the back, it will come down by 6 inches. Okay, like that. Then I'll just connect that to my chest line. If you want it to be lower, you can bring it down, depends. Then this back dart, because it's an all shoulder, you don't want it to be gaping and all. So we'll just do a little bit of tightening around the bust at the top. I'll mark quarter of an inch on both sides of the dart like that. Then I'll link it back to the waist dart like this. So when you do this and you wear the off shoulder blouse or bodies, you won't be struggling to have a perfect fit, or is gaping, those kind of things. So I'm just shading the part I don't want. Then I'm just labeling it B1, B2. I'll draw my arrows up. Of course, I'll add my zip allowance of 1 inch. So from center back, I'll mark 1 inch, mark it. Of course, this is 1 inch already, so I'll just link it together, and that makes up my zip allowance. Then I'll just go ahead and separate the back pattern, and then I'll also cut it out. Okay, so if you notice I didn't put any seam allowance, you put your seam allowance when you're cutting it on the fabric. Now back to the front. Now I'm going to fold the dart like this, and then I will have to blend it, because anything that has to do with you folding in that, you need to do what is called contouring, blending, just to make sure that the neckline is even. As you can see, the line is already distorted. So I'll use my French curve to still, blend up the neckline like this. I'll blend up the neckline, okay. Then I can now, you know, open up now, and then I'll separate the center front from the side panel. So I'll just go ahead and cut. So once I cut out the center front panel, I'll go over to the side panel. Now I'm going to close my bust darts. So you can cut it out, or you just fold it and use a sellotape to, like, cover it up like this. So if you once you do this, now automatically, because you folded in 2 inches, the front and the back will now become equal. Then you blend the sides like this, okay, and then you trim out any unwanted part of the pattern like this. So for all your patterns, you're going to be cutting it on your fabric. Make sure you put seam allowance. Center front is on fold, side seam allowance is 1 inch, and every other part of the pattern is 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so this is how the front looks like, and these are all the patterns. I hope you're able to learn something. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.